Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we are going to start Unit 6 Justice, and our is first topic is Introduction. Justice is of central importance in political practice and theory. In defending or opposing laws, public policies, and administrative decisions of government, appeals are made to notion of justice. Justice is also involved in social and political movements, civil disobedience, and satyagraha campaigns. Thus, the civil rights or civil liberties movements are essentially movements for justice. So are the Dalit, feminist, and environmental movements. While a decent or good society or polity must have several virtues, justice is, according to a widespread view, the first of them. In the words of the leading contemporary moral and political philosopher John Rawls of Harvard University, justice is the first virtue of social institution. He made that statement in his book, A Theory of Justice, which was published in 1971. Some 2 decades earlier, it was proclaimed in the preamble of the Indian Constitution that the Democratic Republic of India stood committed to securing to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political. It is noteworthy that preamble lists justice above the other moral political values of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Rawls' book inaugurated what has been rightly called a golden age in the theorizing about justice. Consequently, justice, as noted by Tom Campbell, is today the central and commanding concept of current mainstream normative political philosophy. In his edited volume entitled John Rawls and the Agenda of Social Justice, B. N. Ray observes that Rawls' book has renewed not only scholarly interest but also popular interest in justice. While there is a widespread agreement among ordinary peoples, politicians, and philosophers about the centrality of justice as a moral political value, there is no such agreement among them on its meaning and scope. On these, there are very major differences in the view of liberal, utilitarian, liberal egalitarian, Marxist, and feminist theorists. Of them, the liberal egalitarian theory of social justice propounded by Rawls has come to occupy a deservedly central position. Those who advanced alternative or competitive theories of justice feel compelled to present their worth or merit in comparison and contrast with Rawls' theory. Now, just we move to the next point, that is the idea of justice. The word justice is derived from the Latin word jungere, which means to bind, to tie together, and just a bond or tie. As a bonding or joining idea, justice serves to organize people together into a right or fair order of relationship by disturbing to each person his or her due share of rights and duties, rewards and punishment distributions. The Roman Emperor Justinian stated some of the precepts of justice as alterum non ledere, not to harm or injure others, and some tribre, to allocate to each what is due to him or her. Justinian perceptions of justice were derived from the Greek philosopher Aristotle, who had defined justice as the treating of equals equally, of and of unequals unequally in proportion to their inequalities. He had also distinguished three types of justice, namely distributive justice, corrective justice, and communicative justice. That is, the justice of equivalence in the exchange of different kinds of goods. As a moral political value, justice is interlinked with such other moral political values as liberty, equality, and fraternity. What makes a society or state just in a basic sense of its right or fair ordering of human relations by giving to each person her or his due rights and duty as well as due rewards and punishments. Justice does this by bringing about adjustments between the principles of liberty, equality, cooperation, etc. Traditionally, then, the principle of justice was taken to be a principle which balances or reconciles the principles of liberty, equality, etc. Such a balancing or reconciling is done with reference to some ultimate value. For example, the value of the greatest happiness of the greatest number, or the value of freedom and equality of all the members of the society. In this context, it may be noted in passing that it is the balancing or reconciling nature of justice which is represented in the figure of personified justice, which holds a balance in her hands. Now let us move to point the procedural justice and substantive justice. In discussions of justice, a distinction is drawn between the procedural justice and substantive justice. The former refers to justice or fairness of impartiality of the processes and procedures through which a law or policy or decision is arrived at and applied. Substantive justice refers to the justice or fairness of the content or outcome of laws, policies, decisions, etc. Principles of procedural justice have traditionally been based on the idea of formal equality of persons, that is, their equality as human beings or as subjects of the rule of law, irrespective of their differences in gender, religion, race, caste, wealth, etc. Often, rights based justice is seen as procedural justice, whereas needs based justice is seen as substantive justice. John Rawls, whose principles of just distribution of social primary goods we shall consider below, claims that his is a theory of pure procedural justice. By pure procedural justice, he means that the justice of his distributive principles is founded on justice and fairness of a procedure through which they have been arrived at, and that they have no interdependent or antecedent criteria of justice or fairness. If those principles had such independent or antecedent criteria of justice or fairness, but were lacking procedural justice or fairness, they would have been principles of imperfect procedural justice. As we shall see below, Rawls' libertarian critic Robert Nozick maintains that the former's theory is actually not a procedural theory, but a set of principles of end state or patterned justice. Now, the next point is needs, rights, and deserts. A passing reference has been made about to rights based and needs based conception of justice. What they mean and how they differ from deserts based justice is indicated below. The most famous formation of a needs based justice is Marx's principle of communalism, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Generally, socialists subscribe to one or another version of needs based egalitarian justice. They differentiate needs, especially basic material needs, from wants, preferences, or desires. The former are taken to be objective and universal, whereas the latter are seen to be cultural, related, and market related. According to Abraham Maslow, there is a hierarchy of human needs, ranging from our own basic needs for fresh air, water, food, shelter, to our needs for safety, love, self esteem, and self realization. Obviously, needs based justice calls for egalitarian distribution of resources within and across countries. Rights based conception of justice differ from egalitarian needs based justice. According to classification, liberalism, the main function of the state was to protect the negative liberty rights of the individuals. The welfare state or egalitarian liberals stress the positive freedom or welfare rights of the citizens. The present day libertarian, who are heirs to classical liberalism, espouse an entitlement centered non egalitarian conception of social justice. Deserts based conception of justice are occasionally referred to as natural justice. It is a tough and non egalitarian version of rights based justice. It emphasizes the idea of the natural deserts or innate worth of an individual, which are assumed to constitute the basis of a God given, natural, unalterable order of things. Edmund Burke and Herbert Spencer upheld these ideas. Spencer maintained that each individual should get the benefits and the evils of his own nature and consequent conduct. These ideas serve to give a conservative social Darwinian defense of free market capitalism. Here we want to close our today's lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.